Allow it some time to process. So it is live. And so this podcast is sponsored by Bix Recovery Supplement. After a long bicycle ride, that is not the end of my day. I am still a husband, a dad, and I have work to do. So recovery is important to me. After a long bicycle ride, I take Bix Recovery Supplement as part of my recovery routine. It was recommended to me by my friend Terence Go, who is an ultra endurance trail runner, and that guy exercises a lot. So he takes his recovery seriously. So I take my recovery seriously, and we take Bix Recovery Supplements. Order yours at Instagram.com/Focus Recovery PH. Thank you, Bix Recovery Supplement via Focus Recovery PH for sponsoring the podcast. And if this is your first time to listen to 032 Conversations, over the years, I have had the pleasure of interviewing over 100 people. So that's a lot of interesting people. So if you want to check out the interviews in the archives, head over to 032.com. That's 032 in letters. And lastly, welcome to the live stream of 032 Conversations. Today is the reunion of podcast that we launched in 2016, believe it or not, called Third World Startup Podcast. Guys, I don't know. Should we introduce everybody here or should we just get to it? Like,
Man, I suppose they see our names, and
well, that's true.
your podcast listeners would probably want to know who are here in this conversation. Huh?
Yeah.
So I'm Kahlil. I'm Kahlil Corazo.
And that's Ken and Robert. Come on, guys. You guys can.
You can intro yourself better, man. Go, Kahlil. Like, what do you do? Where are you from?
He's like, I'm a guy working. I'm male.
Names first before we go into like the long.
We're gonna get to. We're gonna do the catch up anyway.
Okay.
Talk about.
Oh, he's keeping stuff in the back pocket. That's what he's doing.
All right.
That's Robert Lee.
Yes, that's me, Robert Lee.
That's the voice. That's Australian voice. That's Robert. And the last one is Ken.
Hey, I'm Ken.
There. So that like the podcast listeners will know our voices, no?
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Like introduction, yeah.
So It's good to see you guys. I was telling Ken offline when you guys weren't here yet that I was not expecting a message. Like, I was surprised by his message that he wanted to catch up. And of course, his suggestion to do it on the podcast, as you guys know, as Kahlil knows, I am very game to do stuff like that. Right? And just put it out there. Yeah, it's content. But, really, I was also telling Ken offline, really the whole purpose of this podcast is so that I can just hang out with people. And so I was telling him that I was not expecting a reunion of sorts, but I was happy to see it. It's good to see you guys, Ken and Robert especially. Kahlil I see fairly often, but it's still good to see you, Kahlil. But not as good as Ken and Robert.
Not so much. He's like, I'm wounded. It's been very long. And I think a lot of things are very different now. So it's going to be interesting. And I don't even know if we have enough time to go through everything that's happened in the last 3 years that we haven't really spoken.
Yep. When did you leave the Philippines, Robert?
I literally left. I actually know this. Hang on, let me have a look. 3 years and 2 months, 1 month ago. Yeah. It was for a specific job. That's why I know, because I can look at my resume and go, that's when I started, that's when I left. So, yeah, it's been a long time. I still work.
For the listeners, we, the four of us, we used to be in a mastermind together. It was our first mastermind, right, Kahlil? This is the core group of the very first mastermind.
Yep.
And it was basically a monthly meeting of we would talk about our entrepreneurial wins, goals, problems, as well as personal stuff as well. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Khalil and I have just been keeping it going. We still have a mastermind up to now, but
Interesting.
with different people.
That's impressive. That's an impressive streak.
Yeah, we
Just once
ditched
a
you
month.
guys, and
Yeah.
They ditched us, man.
Yeah.
They
It's the other way
moved on.
around. I went to Manila. Robert went to Australia. But yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
But we're all moving on to bigger and better things, right? So let's
Man,
start
it's
with you
nothing
guys.
weird.
Where
Yeah.
is the mastermind at now? Carlo and Khalil. Where is it at
Yeah.
now? How big is it? What are you guys talking about these days?
Same things actually. Same agenda.
yeah,
Just different people. Like if you want, you could watch our the episode last week. We also recorded it for Carlos' sake. So it's another episode. So it's we have an architect, Jonas Pacifico. We have a guy running a hotel named John
Uh-huh.
Mendoza. We have Carlos' bandmate who's now in New Zealand, named McCoy, and yeah, that's those are the regulars in the conversation. So the composition sort of made the mastermind a bit different as well because like when it
Yeah.
was us, it was like very, I guess, very digital marketing and startup like
Mhm.
internet business kind of thing. Now it's a mix of like a more traditional and business, but very different perspectives. Very still very interesting. I mean, it's like the process itself is helps. I mean, just the talking about your situation helps you to
Right.
focus, helps you to recognize the good things that happened. Yeah, so yeah, it's been okay. How about you guys? I mean, actually, I sent you some questions over.
yeah.
I didn't
Like
look through it, guys. No, just
no,
kidding.
it's
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
maybe like just an update. Like what happened since you left? Particularly, like what I want to really ask from you is
Uh-huh.
like, what are the best things you've learned in terms of health, wealth, and wisdom? Those three things, and in your
Mm.
journey in the past, perhaps like what 3 years, no?
Mm-hmm.
What were the
Mm.
battles? What were the How did you recover? What were the best lessons? Like let's make this like a the best of the best, like greatest hits for the past 3 years, no? That would be nice.
Interesting.
Ooh.
I
Who wants to
volunteer you,
start?
Robert.
What? Here's the thing. It's funny because like, oh, Ken, how long ago was it? 2 years or like 18 months? Was it 2 years ago? We ended up like catching up in like Singapore, wasn't it?
I think it was in Manila, if I'm not mistaken. I think,
Oh, was
yeah,
it Manila? I think it
I
was
think
Manila.
so.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
over there. Yeah, I was over there like working for that company that I work for. Am I allowed to
Uh-huh.
say it or no?
You can do whatever you
It's
want,
just your
man.
company.
Yeah.
Oh, uh, okay. Well, okay. I won't say it, but it's a big WordPress company.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think Ken and I work in similar sort of fields. It's both digital, both to do with like websites. He works more on the marketing side of things. I actually transitioned from I think internally I was like more of a sales role to engineering. So now I'm an engineer.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, weird, right?
wow.
But I think I'm lucky. The particular role I'm in, I came in as number 3 in Australia, and so you kept that kind of startup vibe, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a really big company backing us, so we had like money to burn, basically. So it was refreshing because you don't have the stress of saying, "Well, what's my runway? Like, how long have I got left? Before I need to
Mm-hmm.
lift off." It's like, no,
Yeah.
yeah. So we've grown from we've grown from, I think, in this region something like 2,000 customers to like 6.5 now.
Nice.
And we are doing, I think, 20 million ARR or something. And
Are you not
then
allowed to
Solid.
say what company you work for?
I probably can. It's
Oh,
But
called
it's public
if
though.
WP
you think
Engine.
Yeah,
It's called
Revenue data.
WP Engine.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
big. It's big.
WP engine, okay.
Yeah, and so like, and funnily enough, some of our biggest customers are in the Philippines. So I think like 4 of the 5 biggest media publishers in the Philippines use us. So weirdly enough, I kind of circle around in the Philippines pretty often, like talking to people in digital. But my life, I think, has um, changed. I think I'm a lot more stable and happier than I was. But like moving into engineering, it's something that I had a passion for, like technology, and now I'm being paid to basically just bum around with technology. And then also, um, you guys might remember I was doing a PhD, so I finally finished that.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so that's my wisdom thing, I think, like learning that there is much pain in a PhD and no one should ever do it. Um, and there's very little reward, but it's fulfilling. And then also for health, I think just recently, maybe in the last year, Ken's called me a Chad now. So, like, if anyone knows what that means. But I
Alpha
learned
male.
I'm not an alpha male, dude.
What does that mean? What does it mean?
Ken, explain. You have
Okay.
you're the one that brought it up.
No, because I've been seeing some Instagram posts from Robert, and these are like powerlifting, deadlifting, etc., and really heavy weights. And then there's like a term within the Gen Z millennial crowd, which is like Chad, and then Chad is like but it's like the stereotypical,
It's like buff
um,
dude.
yeah, like super buff dude and stuff.
I'm not buff, by the way. I think he's using it ironically because I'm
No,
nowhere near buff.
no, I saw the weights that we're lifting, and it's not light. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. But I learned a lot about my body. I learned that you should always respect your doctor and don't tell them to piss off. Um, and I learned that the limitations you have in your body aren't, how can I say, like, there's no point crying over spilt milk. If your body is limited in certain ways, it just is. And you can't go around walking around going, hey, that's super unfair. This person can eat whatever they want and they look like a supermodel. That makes no sense, right? Whereas I eat 1 cracker and I gain 12 kilos. Like, yeah, it's unfair. But the point is, like, that's the reality. And so when you come to terms with your body and your reality, then you can start working on it and going, okay, well, what are the things that I have got as a benefit? And then focus on them and build up health in a way that is sustainable for them. And what you're doing, is going to be completely different. And when you come to terms with that, then one, you know how to manipulate your body for sustainable, better health outcomes. And 2, health supplements suck.
Right.
What does
That makes so
what
much
do you mean?
sense.
You
Though.
don't need them.
That makes so much sense though, because if you look at guys like the Mountain, like in Game of Thrones, these are like bulky guys, right? And I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
he has the same body type as you, but he's using it in the best way, which is like powerlifting, strength, etc. So you might not be the best guy when it comes to endurance running, but in terms of I think like powerlifting and all that, I think you have the right body type for that. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Robert, how often do you lift, bro?
Bro,
Do you even lift, bro? um, I actually follow. It's embarrassing. I follow like a bodybuilders program. So it's 3 days on, 1 day off. I do chest and back, arms and shoulders, then legs on my final day, and then break. So 5
Really?
to 6
So
days
that's
a week.
like yeah. Oh, cool. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a
Khalil,
lot.
I think Khalil lifts too, right? You lift too, right, Khalil?
yeah, I do the minimum. I just follow this starting strength template. It's supposed to be for beginners, but I've been doing it for like 3 years. I remember like telling you about these guys when I started. I just been continuing it, and when I moved to Davao, my what you call this? So like the luggage allowance was 40 kilograms. So half of that was the bar. So I had to bring a bar here. So you see my
Wow.
priorities in life. I had to leave some clothes in Manila because had to bring the bar here. So
It's so
That
anyhow,
makes
funny.
sense. That makes
yeah,
sense. A
man,
bar is
it's
important. You can use this for so many things. It's like a very heavy walking stick or a very lightweight to do bicep curls or a weapon, you know? You
exactly
might need one of
in
those.
case of war, man. I have the
Oh
weapon
yeah.
with me. Yeah,
You have a barbell.
exactly.
That makes sense. Well, so how much this is a vain question. How much are you lifting?
No, it's like I'm just lift. My deadlift is like this 2x body weight times 5, and I'm limiting myself to that because I don't want to. Actually, like I had to buy new what you call this plates here, and I've already used up all the plates. Yeah,
2x
I
body
already,
weight's impressive.
Yeah. You make it sound like
You
it's nothing.
sound like
Like
it's easy. It's
yeah,
not.
I hang
yeah.
out in like this powerlifting, strength training Facebook groups, and if I mention that, it's like, all right, okay, man,
They're
that's
like, "Oh,
okay.
bro, why aren't you lifting like 5 times your body
400,
weight?" It's
you
like,
know.
no, that's unsafe. Like, I got to the point
Exactly.
where I was like, I'm lifting heavy weights,
Mhm,
and beyond this, you have a choice. Either you go powerlifting route or like bodybuilding route.
mhm.
And I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go bodybuilding route. So you sort of
Yeah.
peak at a certain point, you know.
What's the difference? What's
So
powerlifting versus bodybuilding route?
you would program your exercise regime completely differently. So a power lifter will do
And
big.
now, Robert, you have to explain the objective first. A power
Okay,
lifter cares only about one thing: how heavy they can lift,
strength, just
the strength.
strength,
A
straight up strength.
Okay.
bodybuilder is all about physique, man.
Ah,
Hypertrophy,
okay,
that's
okay.
what you're after.
Being
Hypertrophy.
large and muscular, and
Correct,
yeah.
correct.
So those are
Being a Chad.
it's interesting actually in the gym. You have those two different cultures. In the Philippines, it's like almost all bodybuilders. Like there was a gym I used to go to. There were like 5 benches there and only one squat rack. And the powerlifters have to squat. Bodybuilders hate squatting.
Oh,
So
they hate
even the
it.
squat rack, some bodybuilder would go there in order to bench. It's like what the hell? It's like you have 5
You're wasting
benches
it.
here.
This is gym
Exactly.
etiquette, guys. You're learning gym etiquette in this podcast. If you're going to be doing things that don't rely on the squat rack, GTFO, because I want to use it.
I
So
have
anyhow,
So,
that's
no idea about any of
yeah,
that.
man,
gym
when you
etiquette.
think about biking, man, it makes no sense to me. Like, but
Oh yeah,
this
for
is also
sure.
like yeah, the world of lifting.
Yeah. I went the bodybuilding route. So I still do deadlifts, squats, bench presses, but I do a lot of ISO exercises as well. So whereas like a power lifter for Carlo's sake might do like maybe like just the compound movements. So like squat, deadlift, bench press, but do them like very low reps, very high weight, right? A bodybuilder will do, lower weight, but a higher number of reps and focus on specific muscle groups, activating muscle groups. So, whereas a power lifter will try and use their whole body to lift a weight, bodybuilders will be they should be strict in form. So they're only activating like the muscle groups they want. So they know what they're working on. So they talk about things like balancing muscle groups and things like that. I'm not there yet. But it's if you don't take it to the extreme, it's a healthy lifestyle because you're forced to eat healthy. You're forced to lose weight. If you want to cut, and you're working on all of the muscle groups. I think compound movements sometimes miss some of the extremities. So you're not going to work on your calves and you're not going to work on your arms.
Okay. I'm weird,
So,
like compared to you guys. Sorry, go ahead, Carlo.
oh yeah, Ken. Wait, do you do any exercises or?
Yeah, I do,
Oh,
but I'm at the third road. So there's actually a third path, which is like pure body weights. So I do like more calisthenic exercises. So things like I try to do one arm push-ups, um, like one arm pull-ups, and then I also try to do handstand push-ups. So I'm not there yet. I'm like I'm halfway there. So it's like assisted one arm push-ups. So how that works is that you have like, one hand here, and instead of like using the full hand for the right arm, for example, you just use like fingers, like two fingers or something. So that helps train you en route to one arm push-up. So I do that right now, like two or three fingers, pretty much. So I'm like the third. I used to do bodybuilding, but that wasn't sustainable for me because I get too competitive. So if I see like other people lifting a certain weight, like I want to lift something more, but I just don't have the lifestyle to support it because I used to do like the perfect diet, like all the macros are properly counted and all that. So I went that route before, and yes, my physique did improve at that time, but it just wasn't sustainable for me because I quit for like a while, and then now I'm back, but I'm now doing more calisthenic exercises, which are more sustainable for me because I can just do it at home. So when COVID started, that just accelerated even more.
I feel like everyone, like when COVID started, everyone started focusing on getting healthy because one, you're stuck at home. What else is there to do? And two, there's the existential threat of dying to COVID.
True.
Good motivation, man.
Yeah, don't die. Get healthy.
And I suppose
I
Carlo is now like a biking superstar of Cebu,
Yeah.
something
So
like that.
Oh yeah.
it's weird because it's like endurance. So we have one power lifter guy, we have one bodybuilder guy. I'm like in a
Calisthenics guy.
bodybuilding, not a
Mm.
body weight space, and then there's like this super endurance guy who bikes for like 200 kilometers or something. That's crazy.
well,
That's
not
impressive.
today.
Not today. Okay.
Today was 45. No, it's just fun. So the reason, so you guys were talking about going to the gym, doing these exercises. I actually find it very difficult to do stuff like that just because like I don't enjoy it. So the only reason I get to bike is because I just enjoy, I it's like there's no impediment. Like when you want to run, let's say you want to run, and the hardest thing is really just putting your shoes on. Once you have your shoes on, really all you need to do is get out the door and then you can just run, right?
Right.
And I find that for me personally, when I bike, there's no impediment. Like I don't mind getting up at 4:30 in the morning when there's no light yet. Like I don't see it as a negative, right? Like I want to be out there. And unfortunately for me, I find everything else as a negative. Like I don't, dude, like the only time I've been to a gym like twice, sort of. Like one the
One
first
foot
time
in
in
the
the
door
gym
and out.
was, yeah, no, but basically like the first time I went to a gym was because I took a gym class in college, and because it was the only one available for PE. And the other time was went to a gym membership because I was still courting my wife when
Oh my
she
God.
wasn't my girlfriend yet, and she joined the gym. I was like, hey, that's a good idea, and so I got a gym membership for that.
Oh my God.
That didn't last very long. That's lit. Those are basically the only two times I've forced went to a gym for me, and I just can't get myself to do it.
Yeah, I think you
Oh.
just
And
need to
but no, but
find
that's
your thing, and
yeah,
then
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
whatever works for you, that's it. The best
good.
exercise is the one that you do.
I hated going to
Exactly.
the gym before. I hated going, but like I think I switched my mental space. I use the gym almost like as in a way for me to turn my brain off now, because all of us, right, all day we spend thinking. Like a lot of what we do is mental, and you get exhausted at the end of it, and you think, oh, you're exhausted, go to sleep, that sort of thing. But that's not very productive. So I found it very useful to kind of use the gym as a way to tune everything out, stick my headphones on, and I just focus on the numbers. That's it.
Yeah.
It's really simple. More numbers is better. That's it. Like there's no complicated equations. I don't need to, do any like complicated mental arithmetic or anything. It's just me and the weights. I don't care about anyone else around. And then like obviously you get good results at the end, but the point is it's like for me that's my downtime now.
Yeah,
So
that's so
I
true, man.
need it. I need it.
Interesting.
That's so true.
I
Back in
used, I used
2017, sorry, so go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. So I used to think like that, like it was my downtime, but I changed. So I actually do it like as early in the morning as much as possible. So it's like coffee for me, which is kind of weird. But yeah,
Oh
I just
yeah.
wanted to kind of share
No,
that.
that I've
Yeah.
got a workmate that does that as well. It gets her started,
Yeah.
and she can't work without it.
Yeah.
Um I have too many early morning calls, so I'd have to get up at 3 in the morning to do it. So
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
yeah.
So actually, like back in 2017, which was a very difficult time in my business, that was my refuge. Because under the bar, nothing else matters. It's like because like if you're
Mhm.
carrying the heaviest weight you could carry, your body thinks it's about to die. No, it's like and then nothing else matters. It's like your mind is clear.
Yeah.
It's only you and surviving this weight, and it's a great escape. It's like it's your mind is just cleared.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We
it's that as well.
we deal with so many things in everyday life, right? All of us, where like the end goal is sometimes really difficult to figure out, or it's really far away, or we're dealing with something that's like ongoing and we don't know when it's going to get better or when it's going to end. But like 5 reps on a bench, I know when that's going to end. It's going to
Yeah.
end when either like I can't get up 5 reps or, 10 seconds later.
And
Right.
it's like if you're losing in everything else, which I experienced, at least there's this one thing you could win at. It's like, okay, I PR today. That's it. I won. And if it's like you're consistently winning despite like everything else falling apart, at least there's one thing, no?
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
can
that's
lift more than I did yesterday.
That's
it's
awesome.
Yeah, it's a self-made Skinner box. That's what it is.
could you explain that, Robert? What's the Skinner
What's
box?
that?
Has anyone heard that? Has anyone heard that term before? Skinner box.
First time.
BF Skinner?
Okay. So I believe it was done by like I can't remember. It's like a bioethicist or something. But the basic concept was like um they trained like rats to do a certain thing by giving them like positive stimulus like sugar,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
they'll do more of it. So they get more sugar, and so they just keep doing it, and then they became addicted to doing it, basically. So it's that kind of positive feedback loop we create for ourselves. That's basically the gym for me, and I assume it was for Kahlil as well. It's become a positive feedback loop.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I totally get that where when things are so out of your control and then you can in your case lift something, in my case go out on a bike ride because generally speaking, if I go out on a bike ride, no matter what happens, it's a good day, right? So I noticed I get the most so like so the bike ride goes well, it's a good day, it's a constant. And I noticed that I personally get the most annoyed when like there's something wrong that happens on the bike, like something breaks. It is a mechanical instrument after all, so something breaks sometimes, or a tire gets flat. And I do notice that because I rely on it to be a constant, and for the most part it is. When it isn't, it really gets on my nerves almost more than anything else I noticed.
Interesting.
No.
That's dangerous. If someone knows where your bike is, they know how to piss you off now.
Oh yeah, they just they I worry every day that I'm gonna wake up and I go outside and my bike's not there.
Oh my god.
You just announce your weakness, man.
Well, yeah, get a new
Cool.
one.
All right, that's fair.
So you went to Australia, worked in this company. You changed your what you call this physical what you call this habits. Are there other big changes that you made during that time in the past 3 years?
I don't know. I reckon they're pretty big. Finishing my PhD, I was like, that's
Mhm.
that's a big thing. I don't know. I think that's about it. Like this team here has gone from like 3 of us to now like 13. We were at 16. We lost a couple of guys, but it's just like being another startup. Like trying to figure out how we grow and how we kind of attack a market and gain awareness and gain market share. We're going to be accessing Asia more specifically, I think, next year. Last year we kind of was just dabbling, but it's exciting times. Like I expect that we'll probably double in size over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. So go from 13 to probably like 30 or 40 people, I reckon.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's
What
gonna be
kind of
fun.
engineering do you do, Rob?
They call me a solutions engineer. It's probably closest to a solutions architect. So, I typically only. What? Go ahead.
Implementation, working with clients, knowing their
I typically
problems.
don't do implementation. I typically do the sort of design of the solution.
Okay.
So, like, I will typically only work with sort of the customers that are paying us the most money, basically. And we kind of come into it with a mindset of tell me what your problem is. We have a range of things you can use, and we'll cobble them together, and this is the fit for you. So you get to work on a lot of interesting things. We do work on some kind of bleeding edge stuff, although I wish there was more. But yeah, like I said, like specifically in the Philippines, we're working with a lot of the big media publishers there. So we have an oddly big reach in the Philippines.
Very nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We just onboarded one just like 2 weeks ago, but I can't say who because I'm not allowed.
Of course.
NDA. Okay.
You will have probably read their newspaper before, though.
I'm sure.
Oh, when you said big media companies, I just basically looked at. I mean, in my head, there's not many. Like you
Yeah.
can count them in your hand, so has to be one of them.
One
How
of
about you,
them.
Ken? How are you doing, man? Or a bunch of
I'm
them?
doing all right. So I think when I was still in Cebu, we were still fairly small. We're still small, in my opinion, but I think we were still starting out at that time. I think you've seen me, before the birth of Monolith. I think. So when it was still like, when it was still an idea, and I was still dabbling in other things. So I think when I left Cebu, I think there was probably, I think, 3 or 4 full-time people, if not mistaken. So we're now at about 20. So mostly working at that time was mostly focused on in the international market, but nowadays we're a bit more diversified. So we have clients mostly in Philippines nowadays, because we got a lot of referrals in the past couple of years. So I think business has been good in that respect, wherein people do see the value of what we do. They are getting value from it, and as a result, they are now referring their network to us. So that has been pretty good. So there's about like 20-ish of us right now. We're growing at about like 2 to 3 people per quarter, roughly. So I think the pace of growth has been okay. I think sustainable. I do have larger goals for the company overall, but I think in that respect, it's doing okay so far. So I'm pretty pleased with the progress so far.
Then how do you
That's so
explain
cool
what
to
you do
hear.
to your,
Uh-huh.
Whoa,
to your
everyone
mom
has
Oh,
or something?
questions.
Yeah. Yes. Mhm. So sorry, I didn't catch your question.
Kahlil, go.
Now it's like for this, like I was wondering, how do you explain what you do to your mom or something? Like someone who's not from the tech or internet world.
Sure. You give me money and I'll give you more money. That's pretty much it. So, I mean, using digital. So, if you're an e-commerce store, for example, we would normally target a certain revenue or ROI number. So, say, for example, you are currently sitting at about 100,000 pesos per month in revenue, as a simple example, if you're a very small / startup company. And based on our data and based on our expertise, we can take, let's say, a spend of about 50,000 pesos per month and then turn it into 500,000 pesos in revenue, for example. So we would usually have a target ROI in mind for that particular client. So it could be 10 to 1 ROI, could be 15 to 1 ROI, depending on which makes sense for the customer's margins. And then we try to hit that. So yeah, that's what we do. It's not like a guaranteed thing, obviously. So there is definitely risk as part of the program. But I'm pretty proud with our overall retention rate because people won't renew, right, unless we actually hit the target. So we have about a retention rate of 85 to 90%. And then the balance, which is 10 to 15%, is primarily due to us kind of experimenting in new channels and in new industries which we don't have historical expertise in. But we take those risks, and we are transparent when we say in that, hey, this is new for us. It's going to be a bit of a risk, but based on our case studies, we're one of the best out there in terms of driving revenue ROI for clients. So I guess that's the best way I can explain it to a grandma, for example, wherein like in ads, right? Even traditional ads, when you invest in something, you do expect a money back. So like in stocks or like in real estate, and just like stocks and real estate, there's also risk to it. So that's how I explain it for those who aren't that versed in digital.
Yeah, for context, I mean, like, I think I've worked with a lot of agencies, like a lot, in Asia Pacific, and what Ken is talking about, 10 to 15% or 10 to 15x, or is that right? 10 to 15x.
Yeah,
That's like probably 2 to 3 times more than the average. Like, it's impressive. And then for the size of his agency, for you're effectively like a CRO agency, right?
Yes, I technically term ourselves as a growth marketing agency, at least internally. Externally, I position ourselves as an ROI focused digital marketing agency because that's kind of like it's more intuitive for non-technical folk.
Yeah, for an agency like his, having 20 staff is also reasonably impressive. You know, there's in Australia, maybe no more than a dozen agencies that would be similar in size and scope. So
I
that's
didn't
just
know
for
that.
context. He's doing well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
we pretty much know the entire agency market in Australia.
That's
So
fair. That's
yeah.
fair. I'm crazy though. I want more. So yeah.
so- no, you guys are really similar to an agency I know called Web Profits.
I
if you
know
haven't
them.
heard.
Yeah,
Oh, you
I've
know
been
them.
looking at them. I've been looking at them. I
Yeah, I
wanna
used
I
to
wanna
speak
get
at
them.
I used to speak at their monthly, what is it, morning meetup thingies or whatever. So
Yeah. I wanna
they're
catch up
pretty
to those
cool.
guys. Yeah,
All
yeah. I'm
right,
definitely
I'll
looking at
connect
them.
you.
No, I mean I'm competitive. So when I say I want to catch up to them, it means something else.
Oh,
Just kidding.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Just kidding.
But they are good. They are good.
Yeah, they're good. I respect them a lot. I think they're a pretty strong agency. I think.
This is like completely bypassing Carlo and Kahlil. They're like,
Yeah, I know.
no,
No, it's
what is it?
no. This is we actually for me. I want to hear more about you guys because, uh, we.
Yeah, we've been. I mean,
I
I
think
know about.
Khalil can
Yeah,
say the
we
same
know.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's like we've been hearing about each other's progress every month, and we haven't heard from you guys for a few years. So it's great to hear that. So, Ken, what's one of the top lessons? Like, what did you change your mind on in the past years? The biggest
Sure.
thing.
So I'll start with the business side because I think when you ask that question, the first thing that popped into mind is this. So I think way back in 2016, 2017, I think the in thing for us and maybe for a lot of small business owners at that time was the e-myth idea. And for context for the listeners, what the e-myth is that everything can be systematized, right? So you can think of something as quote unquote creative or complex, but all of that can be systematized and that can be served or that can be used rather as a basis for a future sale of the business. I've completely changed my mind on that. So I'm actually anti e-myth. So nowadays I'm more about people. So I'm all about finding the right people, finding people who have strong ownership, who have strong problem solving skills, who have strong logical thinking skills. And my role is to mainly feed their passion and really design a role for them that they can see themselves in the next 3 to 5 years. Because if they find a company who's willing enough to adjust and evolve with them, right? So really merge the personal career goals with the company goals, I think what happens with that formula is just a lot of magic. I think because people just put in, you know, there's just a lot of passion that comes out of it, and you get to see people do their best work. So I'm not a big systems guy anymore. I used to be like that. We still have systems within a company, so don't get me wrong. So we have frameworks, we have systems, we have processes, and all that. But the purpose of those systems and training material is just for training. So it's just for your first 12 weeks in the company, just to help you learn the fundamentals. But after that, it's really more about mentorship, empowerment, feeding people's passions, making sure I talk to them on a frequent enough basis, especially for the top folks. And I think over time, we've been very good in retaining our top talent for sure. Because I think when I started out, and I'm sure you remember the story where I had 70 or 80% attrition rate. So 80% of the people quit Monolith after 1 month because I was just a crazy guy. Nowadays, it's like the opposite, even better than the opposite. So in terms of people sticking around in a company, so much higher. People love working for Monolith now, and I think for me that's way more important than the systems things. I'm very anti-system now, at least in the way that people think about e-myth and all that. So how's that
Why
for?
why
Yeah.
why do you think there was a change in like your employee behavior?
Um.
Like why what was it in the beginning, and then
mhm.
that made them you have a high attrition, and then now is it just because you changed your thinking on systems?
I think it was also my general management style because I'm very demanding. So when there is a goal, it needs to be done. Um, so I don't want to hear something like, "Oh, I can't do it" or anything like that. Like there's a goal, you need to make that goal happen. So that's just who I am as a person, and it works for people who have a clear motivation on what they want to get out of the company, and they kind of merge that motivation with my overall goal. So let's say that goal is to grow a certain amount or grow a client to a certain level. um, so that did work, at least when we were small enough, when we were about, let's say, 3 to 5 people max. And then I was pretty much the person who the client was talking to. So that worked really well for folks who were very early in the in the monolith world. But as we grew and as we had more people, as there were more layers that I had to manage, that just didn't work anymore because people will feel constrained, people will feel demotivated. And the thing is, if you put like too many systems and put it on their table, what happens is that, at least for the ones who are very self-motivated in general, it actually constricts them because they want to try out new original ideas. They want to express themselves. They want, which they think are valid. They have their own theories. They have their own ideas, which you want to bring light to. And having a very strict system it's something that kind of creates a culture within a company that tells them that, hey, you cannot be creative, you cannot problem solve, you cannot think independently, you have to follow the system. And while I did try to encourage them to be much more open, to be more creative, it just didn't work because at that time I kind of indirectly fostered a culture where, no, it's all about the system, it's all about these rules, you have to follow these rules. So that didn't work for me. And as a result of that, and because of the attrition that I was experiencing at the time, I knew I had to make a change. And it wasn't instant. So it's not like, by tomorrow I was like, okay, we need to like feed people's passion, etc. It's something that I developed over time as I solve a lot of small people problems. And then over time, as I solve plenty of small people problems, that then evolve into this grander theory, which I'm talking about right now, which is you want to feed people's passion, empower them, just hire the right people, and then, they'll take care of themselves and the company, as it grows. So yeah, that's the context there.
I think that applies to any business, to be honest. Like not just like on the like internal hiring side or personnel
Yeah.
side, 'cause that's a resource, but also on the front end as well. Like for sales, marketing, trying to generate revenue, things like that. That's one thing we realized. We spent 18 months, maybe about, no, yeah, 2 years nearly, where I was lucky, like I said, being like number 3, I had a lot of influence on the direction that we were going in the region. And for me, like Kahlil Ken, I was very data driven. I was like, all right, this is the funnel, we need to measure every single variable within the funnel and optimize, And we found that every time we would do really well, top to middle of the funnel, but you get towards that portion where you need to be engaged with sales and, it's a complex transaction. So face-to-face talking with the customer,
Right.
never worked to use a system, never worked. And so even though we had great numbers when it came to generating awareness, all of these like vanity metrics, like click-through rates, etc., like great, getting everyone to the page, getting lots of leads, can't close them with a system. They're really variable. They change from month to month. 1 month we'll be doing really well. Next month we'll be doing poorly. In the first year, I think we churned 30% of our workforce, or last year we did that, I think, 30% of our workforce, I think,
Yeah.
and it came down to, the fact that when you get to face-to-face conversations, that's an uncontrollable condition, like uncontrollable situation. You don't know
Right.
how the customer or the prospect is going to react. And I realized within myself, I'm not a strong people person. I stood back from that and said, look, like, here's a script. You can start with this, but like everything else, it's on you, and it came down to the right people, the people who are able to gauge, who are, a fit for our culture,
Definitely.
and, again, like as Ken said, they're aligned with our goals, like the right kind of customer. You know what I mean? The right way of acquiring customer, and also looking for the right kind of customer, so we can have like really good sort of like product customer fit, and not just going for anything that our system says, and
Right.
each person approached it in a different way, there's no way to systematize it, because everyone did their own thing. But we've had 10 or 11 months of successful, consistent growth,
Indeed.
So
Yeah.
it was just down to the salesperson, basically. Like,
I think it's the same with anything. It's kind of like
Mhm.
there's a certain level of systems that you can implement for
Yeah.
higher order tasks, but then when it comes down to kind of, as Ken was saying, like that interpersonal connection, you can't systematize that. You can't systematize a relationship between Ken and his developer, or Ken and his marketer, or like a customer to our salesperson, or myself to the customer. Like you can't systematize that, because I don't know how they're going to behave. I'm not going to put them in a box, because the first thing they'll do is kick the box open and go, get out of here.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
that's
the
really interesting.
systematization,
Okay. Sorry, Khalil. It's
like,
just really interesting because that now that you guys are talking about it, I do remember having a lot of conversations with you guys in terms of
Yeah.
like all these processes, these systems we wanted to put into place. I remember what was that book? Built to Sell. Was it Built
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that book. I read that because of I think it was this group's
to Sell?
recommendation.
Yeah,
Carlos, Carlos
I
recommended
thought it
that.
was you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it
It was
my
about the logo, right?
recommendation?
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I
I
love
haven't
that
read
book.
that
Don't
yet,
get me
Really?
wrong.
but
I
I
was
have
gonna say it was
I
Ken's
have it with
recommendation,
me.
but was it mine?
It's there in the records. We could check it.
Yeah. I love that book. Don't get me wrong. I love that book. I still love it. It's just like an incomplete system or an incomplete idea, just to put it that way. So I
I
think
think
scaling
it
is more
works in a
than
certain context. So
yeah.
I think these systems, these rigid systems, were built for businesses which could have people who could work like a sort of low skilled work, like for instance restaurants, or sorry,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
work that could be systematized. Because for instance, creative work or relationship work, it depends so much on the style of the person. Like you could just fit like a sales way of doing sales. Either you hire a certain kind of person to do your kind of sales, or you get good people with good potential and let them sell the best way they know how. Or same thing with, like for instance, a creative solution, for instance a marketing campaign or something like that. So yeah, man, I'm glad to hear your
Yeah.
call it
But
new new
but I
style,
don't wa-
Ken.
yeah, but I don't want to say that it's like totally up to the person. I think leadership still plays a huge role in it. And I think the way that you can lead this person is by giving this person a lot of like heuristics or guidelines. And when I say leadership, there's actually a lot of, I would say, emotional blockers that you have to remove, which is natural in most people. Let's say, for example, maybe some people have this preconceived notion that they cannot do something that's beyond their scope. So you'll have to like keep a close tab on it. So you need to have like really good observational skills. And then you need to have like very honest one-on-one conversations with them, like really ask them sincerely, oh, I noticed that whenever you did this, this happens to you, like you trip in this particular situation, like what's going on, right? So you have this like honest conversation. They reveal to you where they are uniquely struggling on, because for each and every person they struggle in different things. So when I say that you want to empower people, it's not like, okay, do this, bye. So it's not like that. Like you want to keep a close tab as much as possible, which is much harder right now in a remote work setting. So at least what I do is that um there shouldn't be as much as possible any private channels. So everything needs to be seen. Like I need to be in all of the client channels. So all 20 plus of our clients, I'm there. So I'm like observing every now and then. And then I have a conversation with them separately. Like, hey, this is what I've noticed. This is what you can do in order to improve the relationship. Because at least what I have is that I also have some experience managing clients. So yeah, I was able to help them out in that respect. So yeah, that's one thing, like really removing emotional blockers, but at the same time you also want to feed their passion, because I think for each and every person they have very different interests. So some people are more interested in building relationships with certain types of people. Some people want more analytical work. Some want to do programming. Some want to be a very strong specialist in a particular channel. Like they only want to look at Facebook ads only. So what I do is that for each and every person, I try to customize their own career path. So one guy does a bit of Python, and then one guy, she's undergoing some leadership training right now. So I actually pay for some workshops just for her. And then for this other person, I do something else. So literally everyone is like treated special. I think that's the point. Like you want to individualize and customize for each and every person, I think, in your company, which is difficult.
Yeah,
Yes.
question. That's exactly it, kay Murag. How do you not get overwhelmed by all of that? Like,
I
I
choose.
think, huh? You what? What did you
I,
say?
I pick and choose. I play favorites, to be honest. No, just, I mean, yeah, it's kind of true. So I only do it for the high performers. So for the ones in the middle, I do a bit, but not as much as the high performers. Um, because I did notice that at least for the folks who are joining my company, they also partly joined because of me, because I've been fortunate enough to be featured in a few publications here and there. Um, so yeah, for those who like really put the passion in and put the work in, they get a lot of like they get they have a lot of privileges. Let's put it that way. So I
So,
pick and choose, and then I also empower my senior managers to also do the same as well for for the folks that they like.
Gotta learn to
okay, because
delegate.
I was
Mhm.
gonna say, yeah, because diba Ken, doesn't that mean like in a way it seems like you have a lot, like anybody who's listened to you talk for a few minutes knows right away that you have high aspirations, right? And
Yeah.
like, so, but in a way, doesn't that style make you the bottleneck for whatever it is that you want to achieve?
Um. To some, the thing is, it's somewhat true. Um. But the way I approach it is that so for say because I felt that when I was doing like actual marketing work. So right now I don't do a lot of actual marketing work. I do a lot of like client management work nowadays, and obviously some BD stuff, business development stuff. But the ideal case, right, is since I'm a CEO, then I should work on sales, I should work on marketing, I should work on expanding my services and expanding my product line. So that's like my main job. That's my number one job. Now, I will dip into client management every now and then. Before, I dip a lot more into actual campaign management. I don't do that much anymore. Um, and you're right, it is a bottleneck, but it's not like a either or thing, because you can like break it down into pieces and then delegate small parts to it, because there's gonna be some hiccups along the way. So it's like an airplane, right? Like so say for example, I like just put it in autopilot for a while and it starts doing like this, and then okay, I have to go back and then do it manually all over again. So it's like a lot of like looking into something, make a really small system, teach it to the person, put it in a training workbook and then step out and then let the plane fly again. And then if it starts doing like this again, then I start clearing again, and then I start fixing a small thing. So you're right that it is kind of a bottleneck, but again, it's not like a either or thing. It's more like you want to solve it in small pieces, and then over time, just with the process of accumulation, really, it finally gets solved. So I think I didn't see a fine line between when I did campaign management and when I stopped campaign management. It just happened. And I think it just happened when I started fixing these small things, and then I see the results. I'm like, okay, I guess it's fixed. And I think that's the process as well when it comes to our phase two, because our phase one was really, phase one is like me managing everything. Phase two is like I delegated the marketing management, so I think that's a check. Phase three now is like delegating the leadership. So right now I'm really heavy on the leadership side, but I think my mission right now is like building a lot of strong internal leaders within a company, and that still includes me like really finding these small tidbits here and there, and I teach it to them, because we have a lot of like some cultural phrases here and there. So say for example, we would say to someone who's kind of like scared to talk to a client, we'll say to that person, hey, just follow this process. So follow this reassure plan template, and then if you kind of trip, I'll back you up. So we'll be there in the meeting. We'll just sit back. So we have like these scripts that we say to people. I call them like heuristics or rough guidelines or leadership guidelines. So you have like a lot of these. So we have one for managing an irate client. We have one whenever someone is scared about a client. There's a script for someone who is really anxious about the results. So it's not like a system per se, but it's like a soundbite that we give, and then it's actually up to the person to interpret it. But usually when we say it to them, it has a lot of meaning as the person who's receiving it, because they don't experience that level of attention and care as compared to the previous employer. So you actually like really, really take that leadership training seriously. So we don't like do any workshops or anything. We have our own style, and our own style is really like, okay, here's like a workbook. So literally we have a workbook. I think it's currently 20 pages right now. And then for each page, there's like a case. Here's what the client has said, blah, 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 blah. And here are the results. Here's our guideline. Here's an example that follows this particular guideline or script. And then there's a small box where you have to fill up your own way of solving it. So I think over time with that worksheet type of style, people have started discovering their own style of leadership. And I think that's something that has helped us over time. But yeah, I think to answer your original question, it's a bit of a bottleneck at the start, but if you solve these micro problems, it does get solved in the long run.
Ken, I'm interested. Are you like your phase three? Does that involve like the creation of like a leadership group or something, and you're trying to internally find those people who match you, basically?
Yeah, we have like a leadership group right now. So we call it the senior growth team. So each one is assigned they're all assigned OKR projects, to put it away. So on top of some of their client work. So there's one, for example, who's assigned for R&D, or service R&D. So they're in charge of developing new capability within the organization. So let's say, for example, TikTok ads goes crazy and starts to trend really well. Then it's the person's job to figure that out for the rest of us. And it needs to be filled by someone who's the type of person who's really hungry to learn new things. Like they want to be an expert in their field. So I feel like for people who have that hunger to learn more and is curious about different channels, different marketing technologies, we assign that person that role, the R&D role. We have another role that's more about leadership and management. So that's like, the agency head track. So it's called the senior growth manager. So that person is kind of like a mini me of sorts, where they do mostly leadership stuff. So helping them in terms of client management, teaching them some small tricks here and there. And then we also have a marketing role, which is all about promoting the organization as a whole. And then we have like another role, which I'm cooking up as well, which is about product management, because we do plan to sell software in the future. Now that we have the capability to build our own internal software. We have like 3 different internal softwares that we use day to day. We're now leveling up a bit, and then we'll now start selling some SaaS software by the end of Q4.
Very cool.
Hopefully. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Nice.
And you know what? what's interesting to me, like in a way, I keep thinking that we are so different in a sense nga, like you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like I am trying to avoid everything that you just talked about. Like you get what I'm saying? I mean,
It's
I'm
not
trying to
wrong.
say
I
this
mean,
yeah, I know. It's
yeah,
like I'm
it's
not
about what you want, right?
yeah.
It's about what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm not I'm just trying to I'm not saying that, there's a better approach, whatever. I'm just saying for me, I keep thinking about like, oh, how do I like make this as simple as possible, and I
Right.
feel like what you are doing I cannot do. I mean, kudos to you. I There is no way I can do anything like that. That sounds uh very complicated to me. And
My
like
God.
like because you're talking about like managing people
Yeah.
also, like basically that's what it is. And
Yes.
I mean, that's such a hard thing to do, right?
It is. Don't.
And
Yeah. Hardest thing I've ever done, to be honest.
Yeah,
yeah, right?
your
But I'm still
ambition has
doing.
to be to be sufficient for you to do that. Yeah, and also I suppose Ken, this is something that is natural to you, or something that
Mhm.
you feel you're capable of doing, because like things that we know we could be good at and could make an impact to people around us, they become easier to do. No, do
Right.
you experience that?
Yeah, I think one thing that's helped me is I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but it's called the Strengths Finder. So you might have seen a book related to that.
Gallup.
Um, yeah, by Gallup. So what it does is that it identifies 34 themes that you have. So it's like MBTI or the Big Five, but it's like 34 with so much more research backed into it. Now I'm a bit lucky in a sense that my girlfriend is a actual strengths coach, so I do get more tips and information about that than most. But I think that's been helpful because what that test has told me, for example, is that um, out of my top five, three of which are influencing themes, quote unquote. So, to what you said, I'm actually playing to my strengths, which is like really influencing, leading people, encouraging them, feeding their passion. So that's something I'm really passionate about, and that's something that I'm into. That might not be true for someone who is very heavy on the thinking themes. So my thinking themes, I only have one in my top five. So for someone who has, let's say, dominant analytical, dominant intellection, dominant and the other red themes out there, or strategic thinking themes, they might not like it because they want to like innovate by themselves, kumbaga. So I'm actually playing to my strengths, and yeah, Khalil is right. And I think I have one relationship theme which is called individualization, which means I customize for people, which is something I don't mind because that's how I build relationships, I guess. Wherein I actually do something that's special just for you. Um, but I'm cold regard otherwise. But yeah, I think you're right, Khalil. Wherein I'm actually playing a lot to my strengths. And it's something that I get a kick out of. So it's not. I mean, it's annoying, but it's not. But it's tolerable and fulfilling annoying. It's not like f this type of annoying. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's like the barbell. It's like it's difficult, it's painful, but you want to lift it. No?
Yeah, yeah,
Wait,
Yeah.
Well,
what
exactly.
did you say? Strength finder? I'm not familiar.
Gal-
Like everybody nodded their
it's
head, but I have no idea what that is. What
so
is?
I've actually done. We do this as well internally, but it's by
Uh-huh.
Gallup. It's called Clifton Strengths Finder. If anyone in the kind of entrepreneurial space hasn't done it, I highly recommend you do it
Yep,
because it will
agree.
tell you exactly kind of the way that, because it doesn't, if you get the premium one, it's not just the top five. It gives you all 34, like how well you
Yeah,
rate in all of them, because it's like a scale. It's not like you only have these. And it gives you direction to pursue something that you theoretically would be really good at, right?
yep,
And it means that you're focusing on your strengths and not just trying to cover up your weaknesses, because covering up a weakness makes you mediocre.
Yeah.
Emphasizing your strength makes you exceptional, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of the mantra of Clifton Strengths Finder. I'm the complete opposite of Ken. I actually did mine, and thinking skills were all of them except one. And I had one that was called responsibility. That was the only other one. Everything else was
Uh-huh.
thinking. You know,
Yeah,
so
man, you have a PhD, man. So
So is this
exactly.
something that people can just Google and it's there?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
there's a
famous.
book.
So
There's a book as
Yeah.
well. I've been
You have
seeing
to
the
pay
book.
for it though.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, you have to
the
pay for it.
test is like, I think 1,000 pesos, if my memory is correct.
It's about 30
Uh,
US dollars, so that sounds about right.
no, 30 is the full 34. I think to get the top five, then it's, I think, 1,000 pesos. So $10. Is that correct? No, it's like $20. Yeah, you're kind of right. Sorry, my bad.
Around there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but the point is, like,
Math.
if you haven't done it, I strongly
Yeah.
recommend that you do it. You know,
Yeah, I love it. My bottom five are all relationship themes. So positivity, includer, harmony, developer. So I cannot be a streamer, for example, in Twitch. I'll do horrible. I cannot be an entertainer. Like, impossible.
Yeah.
And you cannot rely on me to be like the, the
Rah, rah,
energetic
yeah,
guy in
yeah,
the
person.
party.
yeah.
Not that guy. Yeah, I'm not that guy.
No, I had zero. All of my bottom ones are also in relationship. I was like, I am never going to be the one that comforts you. I'll be the one telling you to suck it up.
Let's break this down. Let's analyze the problem first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Totally get you.
So yeah, it explains a lot of, like, for example, Ken. It makes total sense for me. When I read it, I was like, oh, so that's why I want to do a PhD, even though it has no material value, you know.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's like, it's more accurate than MBTI horoscope or whatever. So it's like, it's legit in my opinion. It's something that I get everyone in my company to take actually. So I know everyone's strengths and themes from day one. So I already customize my leadership style literally on day one because I know what your themes are from the get go.
Cool.
Nice, cool. I will definitely take a look at that. Have you done it, Khalil?
No, I did something different when I was in PNG, and then in the past years, I've been seeing that book. Actually, there's a copy in Sugbu, and I pass it. I've been passing by it for like
Yeah.
10 years. That book, Strengths Finder 2.0. I never took a look at
It
it.
sounds so corny, eh? Like strengths finder.
Exactly.
Like what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like
I
an
didn't.
airport business book, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, there are good things there, and I imagine, yeah. So, but
Yeah.
you will just by experience. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this, Carlo. Like, you know what your game is by now. It's like,
Yeah.
there are just some things like, okay, that's not my game. So this is the cards I've been dealt, and this is how I'm gonna play it. That's it. So if you're older, you get to sort of just figure this out by experience.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a system, that's one way. Ocean is another way. The Big Five, MBTI, and then this test I got like many years ago. So more or less, you don't change. It's just like you're the same person. There's another way. There's another thing that I tried, another book, which is like the neuroscience of emotion. And then there's like I'll just send you the link. It's like it's a long article I wrote about it. But there are different ways of like slicing personality, and I guess there's one way in terms of like especially for looking for what you should be doing.
Yeah. I think if you took the Strengths Finder exam, Khalil, I'm pretty sure you'll be dominant red as well. That's my guess. Like, I haven't seen anyone like think through things at a much deep. I mean, yeah, you're a pretty deep thinker in my opinion.
What is a red? What does a red mean?
Sorry. It's the strategic thinking theme. Sorry. So that's what I meant by red. Because they're like color codes. I think it's now green. Actually, they changed the color codes. But what that means is that you're heavy on the strategic thinking side. So there's like 4 domains, as they would call it. So there's influencing. There is relationship. There is execution, and then lastly there is strategic thinking. So I'm heavy on the influencing side. So 3 of my top 5 are yellow. Yeah.
I'm similar to you, Khalil. I'm very strong in strategic thinking. In fact, that's all I have.
I'll take that test and then just to figure out
Yeah,
what's
it's pretty
really
game
it's
changing
interesting.
in my opinion. When I saw it
Yeah.
initially, I was so resistant to it. Like, what? Like, no. And the thing is, over time, it actually made sense because um, although you might reject it, it's actually a part of you, but like subconscious. Like even you don't know about it. So you were actually unaware of your own strengths. That's how creepy it is. So the way they developed the exam is that they basically interviewed a lot of managers and business people across the world, like thousands and thousands of managers. So I think they call it protocol something, but it's basically interviews, and they try to analyze the words that they used whenever they're trying to complete a task or when they have objective to fulfill. And what they've done is that they've mapped those words into particular domains. So they ended up with 34. And whenever you take the exam, you're actually like fed with these words. So and then you have to pick strongly disagree or strongly agree, etc. So like say for example, the example is like dealing with people, leading them, etc. So I would say strongly agree, and maybe Carlo would say, nah, I'm not gonna do that. So and then over time, a profile will be developed just for you, and then I think there are like millions of combinations. I mean, it's 34, right? So imagine like 34 different, actually not 34, like millions of different ways to order those themes. So not each person is pretty much unique essentially in terms of their themes.
Like you mentioned Strengths Finder. Any other systems or books that has changed your minds? You as well, Robert, in the past years.
So one of the things I've been coming to grips with, obviously, like when you guys knew me, I was a systems guy. It's kind of like systematize everything and try. The idea is to optimize. You can't optimize without understanding the variables. But I realized, like I said, my weakness was that even though I could do that, me then communicating it to someone, even though I thought like this all sounds super logical, so you should just accept it at face value, right? People aren't like that. A lot of people recoil. They're just like, no, like this is insane. I'm like, but the data says it works. Um, and
Right.
and so I realized like it's not to do, like as Ken said, with the systems. It comes down to the people and how you interact with them. And so I was like, okay, that's a strong sorry, wrong way of saying this, but it was a clear weakness that I had. And so I started focusing on learning more about how people interacted with each other. And one of the things that one of my mentors, he used to be one of the sales managers here. He's moved on to his own business now. But he brought it up was DISC methodology. So it's kind of similar in that there are like 4 domains. But if has anyone heard of DISC, by the way?
Yeah, I took it before. I've heard of it.
Yeah. So when I took it, I was again all like thinking, but like there are 4 profiles in DISC, and DISC stands for what is it? Dominant, influencer. What is it? What is it? Dominant. I'm looking up a picture right now. Dominant, influencer, compliance, and steadiness. And it kind of determines like what your predominant behavioral pattern will be. And you also
Mhm.
have like a sub-dominant behavioral pattern. So it's usually like a mix of 2. And then that defines how you interact with the other quadrants. So if you come across someone who is very dominant and you are, very steady, then you would interact in a certain way to be able to get a response from them, that didn't end up basically having a shouting match. You know what I mean? So it was one way to kind of navigate. Okay, if someone speaks to me with this sort of language pattern, then I should respond in a certain way.
Right.
So it's still a system for me, but like it was me attempting to understand people because I realized it wasn't took me a year and a half to realize this, and also a speaking to by one of my teammates, and she's just like, you're not really good at talking to people.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, that's true. Like, and there are just certain things that like people are not good at, and because that's not one of my strengths. For me to kind of come up to at least like a level where I was able to converse with other people, I need to be able to understand other people, and this was a way that helped me do it, basically.
You know,
Yeah.
there's like a theme here, but like the importance of like knowing yourself, like knowing what you want to do, are capable of doing, and the things that you don't want to do, or your weaknesses. And
Yeah,
I wonder if, like, if there's a way. I don't know how old you guys are, but we must be like in our mid 30s, right? Or late 30s, whatever it is, right? And I don't know. And anyway, I wonder if I wonder if there was a way for like how would so, I have kids, so I'm just kind of curious, like how do you think there would have been a way to like learn this sooner? I'm aside from just saying life experience, you know.
But wait, you answer first, and then I'll give a perspective on this.
Me, I'll answer.
No,
Oh, I don't know.
maybe
I'm
Ken
just
and
I'm just
well,
thinking
because
out loud. I'm just
I have a perspective on this, which is like it may not matter. It matters for making money because you have to use your strengths for making money. I mean, you have to survive in this world. You have to solve the money problem, and you have to make use of your strengths for that.
Right.
But in terms of like living life, I mean, does it matter if you're actually like not the best in like what you're doing? It's like why would you not pursue something
well,
interesting? No,
okay. Argument on that would be like it actually matters in, like, let's say, relationships with other people. Like a lot of people just have no idea who they are and continuously have bad relationships after bad relationships after bad relationships, and a lot of it is because they don't know themselves. Like,
yeah. Well, self
like, so
knowledge
for
definitely.
example,
Yeah, it's definitely like
go go.
people should know themselves. People should
Mm,
realize who they are, and I think the traditional methods, like for instance, meditation, self-awareness, having friends, talking with friends, people who actually tell you who you are. I mean, being lucky to have good parents to help you do that. Um, but it's like, but the actual pursuit of projects of things in this world, it's like I don't think your weakness should be a major obstacle. It's like I want to do this. I think I'm called to do this, and maybe it will take you 10 years more than a guy who was strong at this area. But
I
I think
think,
this is what I'm supposed to be doing. No?
but
Mm.
I think here's the thing, like, and this is going to be like a really broad assumption, so I fully expect to be shot down. Um, but when we're kids, right? And Carlo, you're probably the same. You never want to tell your kid that they can't do something, and you never really want to tell them, "Hey, you're shit at this. Stop doing it." You know what I mean? You want to support them if they want to do something. Like go do it. If you
Mm.
come second, you're like, "Hey, good try." You're doing really good. You want to support them, but also that for me, like obviously for me, I feel like that breeds that, and I had it. It breeds kind of that like self-centeredness, if you know what I mean. Like
Mm.
it's almost like feeling feeling like you can do absolutely anything, and not seeing failure as a learning experience because you're shielded from it often. And it wasn't until I really failed, like super hardcore failed, that I was
Mm.
triggered to go, you know what, I'm really not this person. Like, I can't do this. And then trying to figure out what my limitations were. And
Mm.
I feel like that maybe needs to come in earlier in maybe even the education process. You know what I mean? Where it's like maybe even in school, it's like being taught these tools, but then also like allowing kids to do something really hard and fail at it, you know?
Well, yeah, I actually I
Right.
disagree with that, man. Because parents, I don't think parents would know.
I
I mean,
don't
we are
think
not.
parents can do that though. I think it would have to be something external,
Man, the
you know?
world will beat you up, man.
But
So
that's
the parents should
but
just nourish you
but I
because
mean, like,
everyone else will tell you your weaknesses. When you go out there, you will experience it. There's no escape from that. If you do something, you will experience your limitations. Yeah?
But the question was, how do you get that earlier? Because while you're still with your parents, you're being shielded from it.
Yeah, that's the constraint of the question. Haha.
No, you will. Like, for instance, if you go to kindergarten, you will experience those things. Any
Yeah, yeah.
any interaction with the world will teach you your limitations. And I think the role of the parents is giving you the mindset that you could work on yourself. That it is not, it's like you're not limited by those labels. That this is who you are. That you could
Right.
change. I think it's the role of parents, man. It's not to put their kids in boxes like this is who you are. No, it's like, okay, if you want to be this, you work in it. So I think the one or perspective that I've heard, and I saw this being implemented, but by a very high, very what you call this, effective manager I know, who's a
Yeah.
mother now, and I saw her mention this in Facebook to her kid. She didn't say that he was talented. She didn't or anything like she was great. So she said, "You work hard for this," and she praised that. So it's the action, the thing that is actionable.
It's
That she
emphasis
is
on the
praising.
effort.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
emphasis.
I would agree with
Mm.
that. I just feel like there are a lot of parents out there now that probably shield people away from that failure, or if they get rewarded for something, like they don't focus on the effort, they just focus on rewards.
Right.
So I
Yeah, I can tell you that at least for me and my wife, we've really made an effort to uh to reward effort, to reward them just trying. And it's because you're right, Robert, that there is an overemphasis on um what's the word, like when you win something
I
and
think it's called
on
coddling.
reward. Okay.
It's like coddling,
Sure.
right?
Like, yeah, because like for I think it's honestly it's probably going to be easy for me to do this to my kid because Kyla's also right because I struggled when I was a kid, man. Like I struggled in school. Just going to school was difficult and it was a challenge every day, and it really felt like, uh, well, at least once a quarter that I would fail at something, right? Particularly Filipino, and you know the so like the world will tell you, and but I remember back then there really was like an overemphasis, especially for like my generation, like on results, like doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how hard you tried, but if you did like number one and then you didn't try at all, big celebration, no, as opposed to you didn't do well but you tried your hardest and then like nobody cared. And yeah, so yeah, I don't know, I'm not really going anywhere with that, but basically
Oh,
that's
but I
Yeah,
get
the
you,
the,
bro.
the,
Yeah.
the society will tell you that all that matters is being number one. Like in high school, there's a term in Cebuano called nanning. Nanning is like it's like you're putting in a lot of effort. So the guy who is the coolest is the one who puts the least effort, but still is like at the top or something like that. So
Yeah, it was a
um,
derogatory term. Like you did not want to
exactly.
be
Interesting.
nanning. You did your
Mm.
best to show that you were not trying hard at all.
That's so
The-
counterintuitive.
no, dude,
Yeah,
like it
but
was a
yeah,
real thing in high school.
yeah.
You know, coach
So
tells you
yeah,
to
so
run, and then you run, but try not to like show
I
that
was a
you're running that
dork in high
hard.
school. I was a total dork. I would try hard in everything.
Oh yeah, well,
Oh man.
in our high school, it was the opposite. Probably in
My
Don
God.
Bosco as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, like if in high school they started introducing these kind of tools for self-assessment, because what do they do now? Like, is there anything like that done now?
I don't
I
think.
don't know. My kids
No,
are
it has to be with the parents,
3 and 5.
man. The school system is just there to be what you call this, so that parents could work. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
you deposit your
We
kids.
we used to have like MBTI in high school actually.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was we just knew our results and that's it. There was no
No
like
one guided you on how
implementation.
to use them
Yeah. So
because
there
maybe
was
you're not.
like
Yeah,
yeah, there was like a checklist somewhere that hey, you have to do MBTI. Okay, I did it. Chook. But were we actually trained on it and how to use it? And did it help us understand ourselves better? Didn't happen. I doubt high schoolers would listen anyway.
yeah.
So
It's like
if
I mean,
yeah,
this
I'll be like
like
whatever.
yeah. You're also your brain is still developing. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
it's actually physical. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the reason why teenagers have less self control than older people is like there's actually a physical
They physically can't
development
have
that needs.
self-control at the same
Yeah,
level.
like the prefrontal cortex isn't that developed yet,
Yeah.
so it's not just
Interesting.
like an attitude or something.
What they say,
But
like male brains don't stop developing until 25 or something. Like you're immature until then,
well,
something like that.
That's
it's
true.
possible for some people.
Based on the new hires that I'm getting, it's kind of true. Kind
Oh,
of true. No, just kidding. I hire smart people. It's okay.
So,
That's
any other interesting things you learned, guys, from the past years, like the best of the best, like the your great assists.
I had one earlier, and then but yeah, that was the big one for me. The one
How about
about
yeah?
focusing on people and systems.
So this business, how about in other areas?
Um, yeah,
Also, you,
my
Carlo,
life
maybe
is
you have
pretty much
something.
business, so
Mm.
so that's the only thing. Really. I think I have more, but it's all business related, pretty much.
oh well. Okay, I can go really, but so with me, so basically in terms of business, I've really been treating it like a lifestyle business. In all honesty, like
Mm.
I have a pretty good life, you
Yeah.
know, but I can't complain. It's not like
Hmm.
easy, but also I get to do what I want. But the thing is that I realize is that uh, basically I do like very easy social media marketing, and but I don't think it's something keep me going for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years. I suspect I will eventually not be able to do that. So I've been trying to uh, refocus and invest my time and effort and money on things that I think can last, longer, like that I think can happen, that'll still be there 5, 10, 20 years from now, and that I don't mind working on
Right.
it for that long. And then that's basically what's been happening now in terms. Well, okay, I've told this to Khalil so many times already, but Ken and Robert, you guys have no idea. So
Yeah.
anyway, um, so like when 2020 started, the whole like I got into biking, so I wanted to start up a bike shop, and then of course the lockdown happened, and I could
Right.
I basically didn't get the money. Because I used to be in the build and sell the houses. I don't know if you guys can remember, and
Yep. Hmm.
so we sold the last house, and then the last house lang was via Pag-ibig, and so you have to process all of that to get the money from Pag-ibig. It's a government office, Robert, just in case you don't know. No,
yep.
so when the lockdown happened, all of those offices closed, and I couldn't get the money from that government office, which put my plans on hold. And in the meantime, while my plans of opening up a bike shop was on hold, there's a bike boom all over the world. So even here in Cebu,
Uh huh.
there's like, no, you can't get a bike anymore. So let's say I wanted to open up my bike shop today. Let's say I had the cash today, which I don't because it's still in Pag-ibig, because we were only able to start processing like a couple of months ago again. Uh, Even if I open it today, I probably would not be able to buy stock for it. I wouldn't be able to fill the shelves with
Mm.
anything. No, and then to me that would have been my idea. Like, oh, I could do this forever. Like,
Mhm.
just have a shop, do just have a community, go biking and everything. So 2020 has been like uh trying to get a version of that going. No.
Mhm.
Um yeah, but fortunately in terms of like income, in terms of my lifestyle business, it's basically still there. No.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. But yeah,
Why do you
so
think the bike boom went crazy? I mean, like, I don't. That's kind of weird.
worldwide, man. Worldwide. All over the
Huh.
world. It's just
Because of the
because like
pandemic, man.
because of the pandemic, because people don't want to use public transportation anymore.
Oh,
So
that's logical. That makes sense.
yeah, so
Mhm.
people don't want to use public transportation, so they decided I'm gonna buy a bike and use that to move around. And then also, there's also a lot like here in the Philippines, at least, you basically cannot do any sport except biking,
Correct.
golf, those types of sports.
Distance
And
sports.
yeah, like
Whatever it's
running,
called. Yeah, yeah.
so many people have gotten into bikes, and then they're just you- it's like so many people. This is the most number of people I've seen cycling ever, right? Um,
Sayang.
yeah. So, wala. So that's so I'm just trying to make decisions for like like long term stuff, 5-10 years.
That's a that's a
I,
big
I
market
think
for
Carlo
parts
is like
then.
your opportunities now is better suited for your strengths. Like the bike shop, it's like anyone could run a bike shop in Cebu. No, but like, what
Oh,
would
yeah.
a guy with a bike channel, what's the ideal, business for
Okay.
that? I think
So
you're
so,
fine.
so
Yeah,
Kyle's talking about, so like what happened when the lockdown happened, and I found myself with a lot of time, because the nice thing with the lockdown, but is you actually stop doing a lot of the stuff you know that were quote unquote wasting your time. Not really wasting, but like like things like going to the barber, bringing your kids to the barber, going to kiddie parties, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have so much time all of a sudden, right? But hey, it's the Philippines. There's like a kiddie party every weekend. It's crazy. Uh, and so I just started like a YouTube channel. Just started posting videos, and so far it's been doing pretty well. Like I got monetized now and everything. So I'm just gonna keep it going and see what happens. No, and then
Awesome.
use that as a channel to, what's this? Try making a living out of it. I mean, I'm not
Start.
earning much, but like it's starting.
yeah. It seems so natural for you, man, but it's so difficult for many people to actually do that.
Yeah, I hate posting videos. I don't know, like it's so difficult for me. I don't know why. Like I can like discipline myself to get it done, but I have zero enjoyment in the process. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
well, I mean, it wasn't. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe it is a strength of mine that I didn't
Yeah.
know I had. I have no idea, really. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm that good at it. It's just that I'm just sharing stuff on video. All
what
bike stuff.
feels easy or natural for you, which is difficult for others. I
Yeah.
think that's a very good
Yeah.
indicator of what you should be doing.
It is
Because if you
because I
just keep
really
doing
think
that,
about it,
mm,
everything like about the video. Like I don't know, like it doesn't lend to my strengths if that makes sense.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, it definitely works for you because I'm not near your subscriber base, by the way. and
Oh
so
yeah,
yeah,
well, yeah, it's just bikes, man.
Carlo is like,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
And Ken, also again thinking about numbers and competition.
yes, yes,
Oh yeah.
So Ken, I
Yeah.
have a question because like when we had our mastermind, so Carlo
yeah,
had this like the mindset of like what you call this lifestyle,
yeah,
prioritizing um, time, wealth, and all that, and then you were in the other growth and scale.
yeah,
Did that, and then I don't know if you noticed, but I've gradually gone into Carlo's side, that mindset.
yeah.
So I don't know, did that affect the effectiveness of the mastermind for you as a source of motivation or whatever, support for what your goals?
No, I think it was actually a healthy perspective. So it didn't like deter me or anything. Um, because I came in to the mastermind with a mindset of like learning from other people really, and I do understand that people come from different perspectives, and I do see the value of like a very lifestyle focused approach, because it's definitely fun, because I do my own like fun projects every now and then. I cannot spend as much time on it as I want to, and the thing is I try to make a work related excuse for it. So, say for example, one quote unquote fun project for me nowadays is that I'm actually coding a chess engine. So it's like with AI and everything. The only reason I'm learning that is because I want to apply AI into my software as a service in the future. So I wanted to do that, but I always felt bad for doing it. So I kind of inserted the work reason for it, and now I feel better doing it. So I mean, my inclination, I'll like do it anyway. So whenever you share these things, I'm actually not like deterred. Like it helps me appreciate like the diversity of opinions more. I actually like that, because sometimes there are definitely plenty of times that I get burnt out and I go overboard and I start hating everything. And I had like some phases I think early this year where I stepped back. So now I talk about like because I'm now in the mood to like really push. But in Q2 Q3 I was like really tired and burnt out. Because I tried to recover hard from an initial dip in COVID. We're now at a better spot, but I remember Q3, literally like 2 or 3 months before this, I was so like about everything. Like, I had to do a lot. I had to like really discipline myself for everything. I wasn't in the same, I would say, um, like I didn't have the same level of motivation as I had in Q1 and now. So now I'm back on track, but the way I kind of helped myself recover from like a really tiring Q2 and Q3 was to do more fun stuff, really, like do more lifestyle stuff. So I started dabbling in weird programming projects, like the chess AI thing. I tried, um, yeah, I tried to play, yeah, I tried to do a lot of things which you wouldn't necessarily hear from me, right? So I mean, like, why would you code a chess engine? Because I felt it was fun. So, and I literally did it for fun. Yeah. And at the same time learn a bit of code, if that makes sense, right? So I actually appreciate it a lot, because there are cons to my style, and that is it's not sustainable all the time. So I think there are plenty of times where I go overboard, where I burn myself out, where I work until 2 a.m. and it just kind of, you know, slaps me back harder. So yeah, I actually appreciate, hearing these varying perspectives, because it helps balance me out.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
I remember when we first did the mastermind, and I think you just came from Singapore or something, and
Yeah. Yeah.
then you were like you didn't know what to do yet. You were at that point in your life where
Yeah.
you were still looking at what you wanted to do, and then you were
Yeah.
even asking in the mastermind, like, oh, should I open up what was that, like, what do you call this, those little like standy, what do you call that, what do you call them, like little stores ba, like a
Yeah.
potato
Yeah.
corner or something.
Oh, like a
And
franchise type of
like a
sort of
franchise,
franchise.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And then like I just remember that, uh and even, I'm sure like all of us have similar, like we were just, it was so,
Yeah.
because the mastermind did not start at 2016, it was earlier, right, like 2015 or something, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
or I can't remember it now, but like I feel like, I don't know, that's why I think why Khalil and I have kept it going, because it just benefited, at least for me, it's been a huge benefit in that sense, like guys, like, you know, all three of you are so much smarter than I am. And then I've just managed to hack myself into a room where really all I need to do is sit down and just hear you guys talk. And then my IQ points are just going to get higher, you know? Uh,
Yeah, you're
and
still talking from the framework of school, man. Because we're, it's like we're sort of nerds here. Yeah, but in terms of creative output, come on, man, who has made like a podcast, made the most content, has the most YouTube
Yeah. And
subscribers?
who's so consistent about it.
Definitely.
I'm not
Yes.
Yeah.
consistent at all.
I could not
Yeah.
do that.
No, yeah, but,
There's
no, but what I mean is, I'm not comparing. I'm just saying that that. I'm just saying that I get
You're
so
pretty
much
good,
out
man.
of it.
That's our point. You're pretty good yourself, man.
But I get so much out of this. But I get so much
Right,
out
right,
of
right.
this process,
Uh-huh.
and it's more than just for me like listening from other people's perspectives. It's like legit learning shit.
Yeah. Agree.
Uh, I'm
Yeah, that's so
gonna look up
interesting.
that strength finder thing after this strength
Yeah, I checked
Yeah.
out the archives because yeah, I think part of my growth is like partly thanks to you guys as well because I didn't have anything, right, like when I started this mastermind with you guys, so definitely big help as well for me for sure. Yeah, I actually remember yung franchise thing. It's been a while, but yeah, it eventually worked out. I did like have big ambitions overall in terms of how it's gonna manifest. I really didn't know. So it kind of like arrived over time because I think the only reason I started Monolith was that someone was like suggesting it to me, like, hey, you should do this. And then someone started asking me for help in terms of marketing. And I'm like, okay, sure. And then it seemed to have way more traction than any of my other weird projects were having. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then I didn't want it to be an agency forever. So instead of calling it like a Monolith agency or something, I call it Monolith Ventures, Growth Ventures. So, yeah. So, I mean, the end state is always like to diversify it a bit more. But yeah, it took a while before I figured things out for sure.
Hey, speaking of the things we've learned in the mastermind, I want to share something which really is is a huge change in how I operate. And
Go
this
for
is
it.
an app called Rome Research. I think Robert particularly would love this since it's
what is
I heard
this?
of
I
it.
think
What is this?
See,
academics
I'm gonna
are
take a bathroom break while Khalil talks about this.
I will evangelize. Well, this came from one guy who was in our mastermind called Mo, and he shared
Yeah.
this back in January. So software which helps you think. You know, so for instance, you could think with just your brain,
Yeah.
but when paper was invented, so we were able to think externally as well. When we write our notes, and we could put together ideas using our notes using paper. But
Yeah.
imagine, how do you? The question is, how do you think using the power of computing? So this app is actually that. It's amazing, man. It's
What is it
using the
called?
tools. It's Rome Research, ROAM
Yeah.
Research, and it answers that question. How could you use software to help in thinking? And some basic things like, for instance, connecting ideas, similar to a wiki, but at the same time, tools on focusing on different ideas, so that, because the main limitation of the biological brain is that we have a limited working memory, that we could only think of certain things at the same time, a certain number of things, and also
Right.
a limited long-term memory. So with software, you could have your past notes. So you could collaborate with your past self and your future self using your notes. And then at the moment you are bringing together ideas, you have tools in that software, for instance, multiple panels and different notes there, atomized notes, which allows you to do that. It's so difficult to explain,
Yeah.
but
It's a
man, it's
notepad basically with links. It's a notepad. I've heard of it. I've seen it before. But I see what you're saying.
yes, but it's so much more. And also the community is also great. The community is awesome.
I
But I'm
will
So
like,
have a
it's a
look.
notepad, and you're like, no, it's so much more. But yeah,
yeah,
I know that there's a Rome cult for sure. I'm still trying to appreciate it, because I just cannot get myself to be disciplined enough to make all of these links. I think if
mhm,
once you're disciplined enough to make all of these like backlinks and interlink all of the notes into
mhm.
one like cohesive whole, I think that's when the value starts kicking in. I think there
It,
are more
it,
features, but all I know is like the double backlink feature.
I've
yeah,
been
the
using
mhm.
tags on my note taking app. That's
What's
the way I
your app?
organize.
What's your app
It's
right
called
now?
it's called Note Plan.
Mhm.
So It's
Yeah,
it's a note taking app. It's the same, but I
yeah,
guess there's no double backlinks or anything. I just use tags and chronological order to figure out what I'm thinking about.
yeah.
But
I
it's
use
actually
Typora.
doesn't need discipline. That's why, like right now, I minimize things that require discipline. That's one thing I learned as well in the past years. So because discipline is limited, so I look for
Yeah,
things which doesn't require anything that I need to force myself to do. And
right.
this is actually the first time I've really done note taking. It's like I use it every day, hours in a day. This is where I do my thinking, my planning, execution, and it doesn't require discipline. So it's that's it.
Yeah.
I'm done with the spiel, Carlo. It's
Although I like a similar software, it's called Workflowy. I use it for planning. So I do my
yeah,
daily
yeah.
plans there pretty much.
Mhm.
And I think they have a linking thing now. But yeah, I think it really depends on your work style, I guess. I don't know. Maybe just me. Uh,
I'm lucky. My workload is mostly like project to project. So once a project is done, I just like archive it.
Archive,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
But
pretty
Yeah,
short term.
this is like the yeah,
oh
because like
yeah,
I've
I
always
think the
wanted
reason why
to
I'm not
write.
trying
Yeah,
it is because there's no offline version. I'm still waiting for the offline version. I need an offline version. I think that's why I didn't.
you could get the you could get an offline version if you get the Believer plan, which is like $500 for 5 years. So it's it's insane,
No,
man. Look at the price,
no. Pay
the price, and
$500.
then people buy it actually. So you can see
It's like
the
someone's
but the thing
salary,
is like
dude.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So but just like the thing I think this is new.
Okay,
This is
okay.
new. I haven't seen anything like it. The way that there's suddenly this world that I've seen, which takes thinking really seriously. So these guys, the guys who created Workflowy, the guys who
Yeah,
created Rome, and other software similar to this, they come from a world which has been thinking about this problem for decades. How do you use computing to help in thinking? And this is a new world for me, and it's just maybe it's one of the best things that I've learned in the past years. The other thing, by the way, is 2018 Naval Ravikant, what you call it, Tweet Storm. I made that my
your
entrepreneurship
mantra.
operating system.
Yeah, I
So it
saw that.
just fits my mindset. And like, yeah, so Rome and Naval, and
Yeah,
maybe Liz Gilbert's book called Big Magic. I think those are the best things that I've
that's new
discovered
for
in the
me.
past few years.
Big magic.
Yep.
big
Or
magic.
like that's my creativity operating system, or at least I'm trying to make it my one.
This is so interesting. For me, it's hard to describe because I think I've started to develop my own style because I haven't seen anyone yet that talks about like my anti-systems approach nowadays. I don't
Mhm.
know. But it feels like I've started to kind of like I guess the idea is like I'm more contrarian than ever before, I guess. So whenever I read something, I just try to refute it or something and then I try to test out something else. I don't know. But I think for me, the biggest change for me is really moving away from e-myth and then getting more into empowerment, building up a strong bench, a middle management bench, and more other people related things. So I think that's my thing nowadays. I think health wise, it's really the calisthenics thing. I think it's more sustainable because I think the way I've structured my life right now is that before I tried to be competitive in every single thing, which kind of like killed me. So I now I try to be choiceful in terms of hey, this is something that has to be sustainable. Like before, I used to be really into bodybuilding or something. For like a year, I really took it seriously for a year, and then I just stopped because I just had too many things going on that I wanted to be really, really good at.
Hmm.
Um, so now I kind of like change something to be more sustainable. So I think I have one core thing, which is like business, and then everything else is like a supporting thing to that. And I think for me to, I guess to answer your question, and this was something I was thinking about earlier. I think this falls under wisdom. I think, for me, when it comes to like thinking in the super long term, you wanna keep, I don't know, because it's hard to be motivated for a very long time. I think that's one of I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think, let's say for example they start a business, and then they just stop at a certain point in time. Especially those who are like very driven. Like you see these like Wharton people, Ivy League people, etc. Like really smart people. I've bumped into them in 2017 in Manila, in 2016 in Cebu, and when I was in Singapore. I've seen all these people super driven, super crazy, crazier than me, smarter than me, and then I found that they give up much faster. It's kind of weird. And I think it's because they don't try to make it sustainable for themselves. So at least one habit that I have is that I do what's called like fun work, quote unquote. So I do something like really something that's really outside of work, but but you can find something that's transferable between the two, and it's something that's benefited me in the long run. So for example, um I think when we first started talking, I was still just learning how to code. Like literally I was just printing hello world at that time. And nowadays I can build like application for clients, all by myself. I can build internal software. I now planning to do some SaaS, and I was only able to get there because I was doing a lot of like dumb things using that technology. So for example, I built uulanba.com. So if you go to that website right now, it's like my pasok ba. So is it gonna rain today or is it not gonna rain today? And there's a Cebu version as well. So it really exists. You can
Are you
visit it right now.
serious?
Yeah, you can visit it right now.
Wait.
And if it, yeah, go visit it right now. And if you click on contact us, you'll see my email. So so go to Ulanba right now. So I built that. So I make a lot of these like fun projects, like literally for the lulz. But there's also a benefit there, which is, you know what? I get to learn a certain technology, and then I can apply that. Like, why are you looking outside? You're not checking for rain or something. But yeah, I'm like trying to apply this into my day to day.
My son is here,
No problem.
I
But
think
yeah,
which occasionally happens.
yeah, yeah. So I call it like fun work. So it's like not really work. It's kind of affiliated to work, but it's how I it's how I sharpen the saw. So I actually build my skill set at a certain level where I don't think any other agency head or person has, in my opinion.
no way.
So I think it's hard to compete with me, like in terms of Facebook knowledge, programming knowledge. I can build logistic systems if I want to. And now I'm trying to like doodle around with the chess engine because I think there's some application in the AI with marketing work. So that's my thing right now. And I think that sustains me because it's not like, go for gold all the time because that's just not sustainable in my opinion, unless you
Mm,
get really lucky and get funding every quarter or something. Um,
which
and
doesn't really
then
happen.
yeah, and then you're not ultimately happy. Like based on what I've heard, like a lot of these you know superstar founders aren't really happy. Like they all regret at a certain time.
Well, you have to be that type of person. If it's if you have to be the person that game is what you're meant to do in this life. Some people are built that way. So I guess
Yeah.
you have to know, what you are
Ironically, I think
meant for.
I'm built that way, but I hate VC so much.
No, so you mean it means you're not built for that. No, it's like
There's
that
some
that
people
world.
who live for that. Like they live for the pressure, you know.
Yeah, also like
If-
I mean
they
they're
like being
born in a
dogs.
certain.
That's what they are. No joke.
I mean, you have
it,
like you're born in a certain location, you have the right
Yeah, yeah,
connections. It's like
you
I
have
don't
the
think.
right cultural
Yeah,
background,
yeah, yeah.
upbringing.
I
You're
mean,
used to that sort of
you're
thing.
and also your ambitions is fueled could only be built by that because it's not a good. It's like very high failure rate.
Hmm.
Um,
High risk.
it's everything has to be right for it to go right. It's like it's a huge bet. Few people make it, but if you do make it,
You
it's a
really
huge
make it.
impact. You make a lot of money. So, but it's like who's built for that? It's like maybe a
Yeah.
few people.
I have a different philosophy. Like, because I've been really thinking about it. Because uh, I could have went that route because people were like telling me to go that route. But for me, when I think about it, it's like, okay, do I want to be someone like, let's say for example, just to throw an example, like Henry C, or do I want to be like Mark Zuckerberg? I want to be like Henry Seymour, wherein I have a lot of ownership in the company. It's something I can give to my kids. And I feel like I have much more control. So I feel like, yeah, the VC thing is fine, but I feel like you can make a lot of money in other ways as well. So I kind of prefer the Henry C route, where you kind of build it on your own,
I don't.
be self-made, as compared to like, Mark Zuckerberg, who's like,
Yeah,
who's
fun.
like, who's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna get
That's
details.
that's the Atlassian route. So they went
Yes,
bootstrap,
I love
and
those
they're
guys. I
yeah,
love
they
Atlassian.
got
I
the
love Basecamp.
control.
Yeah,
Yeah, and all of those tools that they built were for internal use as well before
yeah.
they went
Those are my
went.
guys. I look up to them.
Yeah,
Now
they're
that you,
from Australia, so they're always held up in high esteem here. So
yeah,
it's funny, Ken. I was
lots of
listening to
respect
you,
for them.
and
Yeah,
I do too. We actually
yeah,
use all of their products, though.
yeah.
But like, I was listening to you, Ken. It's kind of funny. I come from the same space in that
Mm-hmm.
I go really hard for like
Yeah.
quarters at a time, and then you feel that burnout. I'm in a stage of burnout right now. I went really hard for the first like 3 quarters of this year,
Yeah.
and Q4. I think I've told my team, I'm like, I'm just going to focus on this one really simple thing, and then everything else is business as usual. I'm not going to work on any crazy projects or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think I went the other way. Instead of going like and learning kind of like fun projects and stuff like that, I think this
Yeah.
falls under wisdom as well, Kahlil. But for me, I went the opposite direction, and I kind of changed my mindset and found satisfaction in incremental progress. I call it like one step at a time, or very long-term goals. Like, for example, my health. You know, I realize it's something I'm good at, and just finding satisfaction in really small improvements. And then you don't notice those big improvements until you reach a certain point. You're like, oh wow, and that gives you more satisfaction to keep going. And so the downside of that, obviously, my life is pretty regimented right now, but it also means that I don't spend a lot of time thinking, hey, where am I going to go out tonight? Or, am I going to, have to plan for a party or something like that? I'm pretty, I'm pretty happy with like kind of, long-term personal goals that I achieve over a long period of time, and just doing small things every day to achieve them. I think it's a mind shift, and not everyone is going to take that shift. But for me, it's given me a lot of internal peace, because
Right.
I'm like, I'm doing what I can, even if I can't control everything outside of that, So
Hey guys, I have to go. I have dinner in a few minutes. So it's been great
Great catch up.
seeing
Yeah.
you.
it's been a good
Yeah,
catch
I think
up.
we should
Robert.
end. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah. We can have a
This
part
is a
two.
long one.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Yeah. We can do one that's not broadcast. By the way, just
Yeah. Yeah.
unless
I know.
unless everyone wants it broadcast.
No. All of the good
Right.
stuff will be offline. I think you have like some juicy stuff that you want to
Yeah.
share that we cannot share here.
He's gonna record it secretly and put it on his Patreon and say, "Hey, like, subscribe."
For $500, you can act
The Believer package.
the
Um,
believer.
No, but I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we did
Yeah,
this.
man. It's a good catch up.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys again.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So
All right. So,
night.
Do you need
that's
to say
it.
anything,
Okay,
Carlo,
guys.
to end it?
No.
Or
This
is
is
there like an outro?
no. We're done. I'll end the broadcast, and then if you guys want to chat offline.